Aloha, podcast listeners. Welcome to this episode of JJ Meets World. This is your host with the most, JJ, and today's episode features an interview with our good friend, Sarah Schaan. We've known Sarah for a lot of years, and you certainly get that old world friendship style conversation that takes place in this. Also, let your fingers do the walking. You're going to Google a lot of things so that you can understand what we're talking about, from, a type of bath that one might take, all the way up to a disgusting group of boils that could appear on your skin. Plus, Tucker and I talk about the permanence of furniture. All of this and so much more on today's episode of JJ Meets World. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of JJ Meets World is brought to you by Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. Natalie has a proven track record to get your home sold faster and for more money. She is consistently focused on her clients' needs and wants throughout the entire process and make sure that they are well taken care of. If you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to Natalie today. On average, Natalie sells a home every 3.74 days. That's at least 2 a week. And last year, Natalie earned her clients on average over $4,000 above list price on their homes. And you don't have to take our word for it. Here's some of the great reviews Natalie has received. I was overwhelmingly impressed with Natalie and all the Hatch team. She was very responsive and responded to all of the emails within an hour. She gave great advice and encouragement from the listing and pictures, the offer, and all the closing details. The marketing team knew exactly how to promote my property, and I was pleased by how soon and easily my property received an offer. I was actually dreading selling my condo, and Natalie did such an awesome job that I felt like I really didn't need to do anything. The thing I most appreciated was that she really listened to what I wanted to do and respected my decisions. I would definitely recommend Natalie and all the Hatch Realty team. They made this process so wonderful. That was from Diane. So listen, if you're in the mood to buy or sell a home, give Natalie a call right now. You can reach her at 701-388-9338. Natalie, Natalie, at hatchrealtyfm.com, or you can go to livefargomoorhead.com. That's livefargomoorhead.com and find out some information. Huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
How old were you when you first purchased or inherited a piece of furniture that you kept for as long as you possibly could because it was so comfortable, or it was so nice, or it had such a nostalgic feel for you that you couldn't envision your living space without it? I'll go first. When I was 16 years old, the bed I had broke. So it was an old bed. It was part of like a whole set. So I had a desk that matched and a chest of drawers. And I actually still have the bureau that it came with. I have it out in my shed now, and I keep power tools in it.
Okay.
But my bed broke, and so it was time to get me a new bed, and I went from a double bed to a queen size bed.
Massive upgrade.
Massive upgrade. So I went out and I had to get a new mattress. And my mom took me with, and she did something really smart. She found the salesman who was the biggest size-wise salesman there.
Right.
Tall. I would consider the man beefy.
So if he was comfortable in the bed, you'd be comfortable in the bed.
And it taught me a very important life lesson, which is sometimes you need to be with somebody who understands what your needs are. You right? So you don't go to a string bean. It's like they say, like, oh, like a thin chef, or a shoemaker who wears like a boat shoe he bought on Amazon.com.
Uh-huh.
So this guy suggested a mattress, and I had that mattress for, I was probably 15, 16 years. At one point, you had that mattress.
Yep, I know which one you're talking about.
That was the most comfortable mattress of all time. It was spring-based. At one point, I had moved it so many times that it had splinters embedded in the mattress because I had moved it next to like a wooden shelf or something. But I loved that mattress. I loved it more than almost anything else in my entire life. And it was a sad day when I put that mattress out on the berm and I watched a garbage truck take it away during cleanup week. I loved that mattress.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a piece of furniture that you loved?
We had a family table. It was the dining room table that I had always grown up with. And at some point after moving out of the house, I can't remember how long afterwards, they were going to get rid of the table, and I took it and I had it for a while. But then I was always living in situations where the table that we were using for the dining room table was one that a roommate of mine had provided. So I kept this table in storage with the hopes that I was going to hold on to it and that it would eventually be a table that I kept with me, like an heirloom. But it got moved around so much in storage, it started to take on damage. And eventually it just got so damaged that it just wasn't really worth holding on to anymore. And I just knew, the if I was going to have this dream of using this particular dining room table, I would have kept better care of it. And I would have actually insisted that we use it because it was a pretty cool wooden, ornately carved table. So that's gone. And I think I really just miss the memories of eating at that table, the things I thought about at that table, art projects I did as a kid. But that's okay. You make new memories. When you were talking about a piece of furniture that is intrinsically tied into your memories, the one piece of furniture that I go to is is Grandpa McDonald's sitting chair, which we still have at our lake cabin in his spot. It's his chair. Obviously, he's not around anymore, so we all sit in it. And I don't know when he got that chair, maybe in the 50s at some point, but it was always his chair, and it's got a kind of groove carved into it from where he would sit, and it's incredibly comfy, and it's got a little stool that goes with it. You can kick up your feet. It's the most comfortable chair I know exists, and we keep it at our lake cabin. And so that's like a chair that we just need to always hold on to if we can, because there's so many memories that are in it, and it's also like an older violin. Like, I think it plays really nicely.
There was a change at one point where furniture became cheaply made. People used to hold on to furniture for decades, and now I feel like you get a couch and 5 years later you get a new couch. Yep. And it's sort of like vacuum cleaners. My grandmother owned one vacuum cleaner for 40 years. And then all of a sudden vacuums now are cheap enough where they're disposable. You don't get them fixed anymore.
My mom's had the same vacuum since 1985. And
right.
It still works great.
And, if she ever needs to service it, she takes it in to get the vacuum serviced. But and it's not necessarily, people blame places like IKEA. And yes, they've got a part in this, but we just don't expect the quality we used to out of furniture to last as long. And I think because we're sort of fickle as a people, we want to change things up. This room needs to change. It's got to change it up. My grandparents' lake cabin, like living room area, I don't think they ever changed the furniture out in it the entire time I went there. I think it was always the exact same furniture. It was the same pattern. And because you chose your furniture and then you lived with it until you either had to replace it or not.
This is making me think a lot about how we've spoken a lot, not just recently, but in the past, about how many times I have moved over since my adult life. But really that trend goes back to when I was a kid too. And I've never felt a sense since graduating high school, like a sense of permanence in any place that I've lived. It's always felt like I'm in transition to the next place. And I look forward to moving in somewhere where I go, yeah, here, this is home. This is where I'll start to get the furniture that I'm going to hold on to for a long time. This is where I'm going to plant a garden. This is where I'm going to do all that kind of stuff. And I haven't found that yet. I haven't figured out where that is yet. And I wonder if that is a common sentiment in these generations now, as we deal with our furniture and other things that make up our living space. So many more people are, they don't want to put down roots. least not right away, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
They're more nomadic. And so when you're nomadic, I'm using the term super loosely here, but it doesn't make sense to be holding on to a ton of furniture from the past.
I think that there's a transition in a person's life, right? And for some people, it never happens. They constantly are the people who are seeking out new scenery. They're constantly seeking out a new niche to call their own. I'm in the house I'm going to raise my children in, and it's the house I grew up in. And so
generations of Gordons and Dawsons have lived there.
Right. And so I feel a permanence for my living space. And so now my wife and I are transitioning into buying those things that will have permanence to them.
Right.
So we were talking about having to buy a new couch for our basement. And I said, well, we're having to go and buy an actual nice couch, something that'll be there for a while. And maybe it's a matter of it's time to buy a new living room set all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it funny, and I find it to be the most adult thing that I've had to do in a very long time. I pay taxes every year, sure. I budget, no sweat. But this is probably the most adult thing, picking out furniture.
Right.
And having to pick out furniture with another person and say, what's the purpose of this furniture?
Yeah.
Is it for us to entertain? Is this furniture for us to relax? We have dogs. We're going to have kids. How will spit ups be handled on this furniture? And it's just, like if I halved my life right now, I'd be 18 years old. And 18-year-old JJ would be like, you guys are so lame. You guys are so lame. Dealing with your problems, calling a refrigerator repairman. Bunch of idiots. Should be skateboarding.
I don't know, just nothing feels permanent to me.
Yeah?
Or just hasn't for a long time. And I don't say that as a mopey, depressing statement. It's just more of a statement of fact. Like, yep, it's just never felt, I've never felt all of my living situations, especially for the past 10 years, have been more about the utility of, yep, it makes sense to live in this particular apartment in this part of town for this reason. Which is why every place I move into, I never fully move into it. Like half of my stuff is always still in boxes and stuff because it's like, it's just me here, right? This is where it's almost like it's just my room, but my room is an apartment.
Interestingly enough, we get to talk in this episode about one of your living situations.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point you lived in a house, and even in the house, your bedroom wasn't a permanent place. You swapped to another bedroom at one point.
Right. Well, I moved out of the house and then I moved back in. So I moved out of the house for like a year. And so then Brad got my old room. And then when I moved back in a year later, I took his old room.
Oh, there you go.
Which is how that happened, yeah.
Well, today our guest is Sarah Schaan, who is a previous roommate of Tucker's and has been a friend of Tucker's for a long time.
Well, yeah, one of my closest friends. I've known Sarah since sophomore year of high school. We go a ways back, and love Sarah like a sister. She's phenomenal.
Possibly one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Agreed. Not a cynic.
Not a cynic. Asks a question and genuinely wants to hear what the answer is.
Right.
In fact, at one point in this interview, she calls me a bully, and it cut me deep. It cut me to the core. And so I'm going to have to go home and cry and change my life view on some things.
Even though she's newly a mom, she had a baby daughter last year, she's had maternal instincts ever since I've known her.
Mm-hmm.
So in our friend group, she was always the one who was, worrying about everyone and trying to take care of them whenever she could.
And I think, and she, even beyond care, I think she had compassion, and she had, she just had like a consistency to her as a friend.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm bobbing in and out. I'm high energy. I'm like a ping pong ball. You never know where I'm going to end up. But Sarah's got this consistency to her that every time you talk to her, it's a cool level presence. And I always appreciate running into her. I ran into her at a dog park a few years ago, and it's like time faded away. It had been probably a couple of years since I had seen her last, and it didn't matter. We caught up immediately. I ran into her at an event last year where they were serving all of this like Nepalese food, and immediately, was like, oh, you're a mom now. It's exciting. And this conversation is just so much fun. This episode of JJ Meets World is probably one of just the most conversation. Like, we could have been sitting at a diner eating onion rings, or in a car driving to, a friend's wedding.
Yeah.
This conversation goes everywhere. We touch on a lot of stuff. There's also probably the most Googling that's ever been done in a single interview. I love this one. It's a ton of fun.
The thesis of this show is that we're trying to get JJ to meet everyone on planet Earth, but he's already met a lot of people already. So some of these episodes are ones where you get to meet our friends.
Yeah.
People that you haven't had time to meet before. So introducing to you, Sarah Schaan.
Yeah, so let's get this thing rolling. Sarah Schaan, everyone.
JJ Meets World.
Sarah, welcome to the JJ Meets World Studios. You have made yourself the most comfortable out of any guest in 160 plus episodes. You brought your Diet Coke in with you, which I saw you've already been working on.
Yes.
You kicked your shoes off. You're
You
sitting
have a couch. What am I
cross-legged.
supposed to do?
Two couches.
That's
You
the
have
thing
several
is,
couches.
sometimes people come in here and they just sit, like it's
they
almost
sit
like they
like
want to keep
this?
their coat on, and it's like no, sit.
They're
stay
like,
a
I'm going to be
while.
leaving in 5 minutes, so I'm going to just go ahead and keep this on.
No one's come in jammies yet, and I kind of feel like that's a missed
No,
opportunity.
that's not true. That's not true. Ryan Lance of the Blenders came in pajama pants and a hoodie.
Oh, that's
He
right.
he had just woken up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So we do have
I
one
did
jammies.
put
But I feel
on-
like he wears that on a regular basis.
Yeah, but still,
like
he
that's
wore
his
his-
everyday clothes.
He wore his jammies and he's a public figure.
That's true. Well, I mean, like, I would vote for someone in jammies.
Would you?
Probably.
If
Like,
someone
if their
ran
platform was acceptable, I would vote for them in jammies.
I think your perfect candidate would be in scrubs all the time. They would just be wearing scrubs constantly. That's Sarah's, and they'd have a nose ring, and
Oh,
they'd
totally.
be like,
Facial piercings are a prerequisite
and they
for
would
my
be,
vote.
They would be gardening.
and they're
You're like,
really they're really looking for like the Lilith Fair endorsement,
just
is what it
saving up,
is.
Just saving up until I can build
Except for
that
maybe a little bit
bicycle
less
repair shop.
angry, like than Lilith Fair.
Lilith Fair is angry.
It's a very angry place.
Was it really?
Not according to
heard.
Deb Jenkins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to actually go before I can remark on it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and don't edit it out, but edit it out.
Mm-hmm.
But don't edit it out.
I went to a Lilith Fair when I was in Minneapolis, and I really enjoyed it. Although, I mean, I was like 17, maybe.
You were in your
know?
formative years.
Yeah, I was. I was
Oh.
still like cute enough that I was walking around being
I
like.
bet a lot of people thought you
Sarah
were a young
McLachlan.
lesbian. I bet
Maybe
they did.
Maybe they did.
bet plenty of them
Maybe
did.
they did. Why? And and that's not a bad thing.
Not at all. I'm not
Like,
saying that it was.
Versus like if they're like, look at that old lesbian over there, and it's like he
Also
didn't
not a
take
bad
care of
thing,
his
JJ.
body. Yeah, but if you're a 17-year-old and you're like, oh, he looks like an old. That's my problem. Is I like to look young versus looking old.
Oh.
Right.
And no matter what, like in any circumstance.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you think that I'm a lesbian or I'm a Star Trek
Oprah Winfrey fan.
or I'm selling coats.
These
it
things
doesn't
are,
matter.
None of these things
Car
are mutually
salesman.
exclusive. I just like to point out. None
I
of
would
these
like to
things
be
are
a
mutually
young,
exclusive.
young a cat owner. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
oh, yeah.
Just
Mhm.
young.
I mean, do you ever really own a cat though? Doesn't the cat really own
own
you?
you.
A cat caretaker.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I just dropped 25 hundo on my cat. I feel like his owner.
No,
I own you now.
I own him for sure.
And then you tent your hands when you say
Yeah.
it. I own you now. Except for
Yeah.
he kind of like owned you, as in like
He did.
owned you,
He did. His
as
cat
in the
food owned
nerdy.
me, yeah.
yeah.
So technically, you were more like a sucre papa, as the French would say, a sugar daddy. So
Sucre
when you're-
Papa did chat.
yeah. Oh, oh my! Look at you hitting up the francophone listeners out there, huh?
I think I said all of those words wrong though, so I apologize.
It's all
and
right.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's a very Midwestern, like I'm coming to Canada for the first time. And I'm gonna try and really
Are you
like
from
enjoy
Ireland?
it. Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm just because the Irish love going to
I'm coming
Canada.
from Canada. Oh.
Sarah, now that we're appropriately into this podcast
Excellent.
and haven't like either people have turned this off completely or they're really leaning
Really.
into this whole
Yeah, I
conversation
don't
big
think
time.
anybody's leaning in. I'm gonna go ahead and lean in though, because you probably can't hear me.
I can hear it.
Okay, good.
Would you tell us a little bit about
you, Russ.
yourself, please and thank you?
Well, I'm a new mom, which has been kind of dominating my life at the moment, which is as it should be, probably. I work as a nurse at a healthcare location,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to have hobbies, a lot of them,
But now you have a baby.
and now I have a kid and a full-time job and a mortgage and a dog. And a husband. Yeah, he's there too. So, yeah. So
that takes us up to where you are now, but like
profoundly.
so really pretty much, from what we've established is you were born
was born.
Something happened, and
Things
now
happened.
you're
And
a
in the
mom.
last 4 years, we got married. We bought a house, got married, had a kid, and now we have a 1-year-old.
It sounded like you said you got married twice. You got
Well,
married, bought a
really.
house, got married,
Yes.
had a kid.
Well, I mean, Mormons can't have the only lockdown on
That's a good point.
Polygamy.
polygamy. Is
Yeah,
that, okay,
I mean, polygamy is not
Oh, good.
exclusive to Mormons, and
Yeah, I
it's
know.
certainly not exclusive to,
But it's
People from
also
Utah.
it's
Yeah.
also about marrying multiple people, not marrying the same person twice within the same calendar year.
I know people who've like gotten divorced and then
Remarried.
like after another failed marriage.
What kind of a gift do you bring to that wedding?
No gift.
I watched this failed once, so I'll be here.
You say, I hope you kept the blender
You
I
give
gave
them
you in 2015.
Another gift of the same exact thing that you gave them the first time, just to be a dick about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Just to really push that out there. Be
And
like,
I
now
hope
you
you
gotta
didn't
return
get
this
him an
again.
expensive gift, like I don't know, chopstick set or something like that.
I always think that every time that you get married,
Okay.
so like you get divorced, you get married again, you get divorced, you get married again, the wedding has to go down in scale by like 9/10. So your first wedding is you rent out a big hall and all this stuff. Your second wedding is in the backyard at like a private residence. Your third
I'm
wedding
pretty
is like
sure
a
that's-
courthouse.
Like 9/10. So you rent a small hall.
Oh, a
You
small
need to-
hall.
If you rented a big hall, you have to rent a smaller hall, or you can rent like
A
the
tent.
basement of a restaurant.
Oh.
Like, come on, let's like somebody's backyard. That's like your 5th wedding.
I don't ever want to enter an Olive Garden and say, could you tell me how to get to the basement?
See, I guess I feel slightly different about this than you guys. I think they should go up in complexity each time. Because
Really?
it makes you less likely to go through marriage again. Because like, oof, I'm on number 3. This one's going to be really
The
expensive.
wedding itself is the hurdle.
It's like, ooh, okay.
I feel like that was how it was in my marriage, except for it was my first one, and it was a huge hurdle. Like at my wedding, I truly did not even like my husband. I was like, oh, I love you, but I don't like you, because we planned it together, and we were like the responsible adults at the wedding. Like we were like trying to run a wedding and be in the wedding is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone who ever wants to get married out there, you don't do that. Not smart.
On the
Unless
day,
you want to like your spouse.
I'm planning on hiring like a stage manager, like someone who
Yeah.
actually does that for
Yep.
theater.
Yep.
And go, yep, you're the
Smart.
person, you're the HBIC today.
Mhm.
You're the one who's taken on everything.
Yep.
there was one point in my wedding where I turned to my soon-to-be wife and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
stop telling me what to do.
See, I told
I
you.
will make
On your wedding
this
day,
happen.
you typically don't like your spouse. It's
Right.
Just, I mean, you love them. You're like, yeah, I'm still going to marry you, of course, and whatever. I'll take care of you when you're sick and stuff. But like, oh, I just, can't you do anything right? That's kind of how you feel. And it's very sad.
My sister did it right. She planned a destination wedding
Oh,
at like
geez.
a resort, and she was like, "Listen, you come if you want, you come if you don't, or you don't come if you don't
You
want.
come if you
like,
don't want, or
yeah,
I'll cut you."
like you'll see
Is that
some
what she
pictures
said?
in the video." And the people who went there were the people who wanted to be there, but we had like 3 days before the wedding and 2 days after, and so we just hung out. And there was a night where we had a game night on the beach, and something like 40 people ended up showing up
Wow.
to Montego Bay. Yeah.
Well,
And we
I
had
would
a
have showed
blast.
up if she would have invited me.
Oh, really?
I'm still waiting for the invitation.
It was expensive, and you
I'm
had
still
just had a
waiting.
baby. You wouldn't have been able to bring your
I
baby.
wouldn't have gone. Actually, I missed my cousin's wedding, and I only have like 5 cousins, so that was a pretty big miss
because of the baby.
because I had a baby. And
What
then,
if-
so before baby, like that's kind of how it is. You have no idea. Before baby, you were like, oh yeah, oh absolutely, we're gonna be at this wedding. It's 2 months after baby's born. We'll just have their immunizations. It'll be great. It'll be perfect. And then the baby comes, and you're like, oh my God, I have a screaming, and this baby was particularly fussy. So I have a screaming human being who I'm responsible for not dying, and I am not going to take them on a plane full of sick, evil flesh sacks. And that's how you look at everyone else. Ill flesh sacks. It's just terrifying.
Once she was born, did the world really like feel like it became a more dangerous place?
No, I became a more neurotic person though.
Okay.
So I don't think the world changed, but I became incredibly neurotic. And now she's 1 and like she'll pick up food off the floor that she's been stepping on. And I'm like, oh, don't eat that. And I'm sitting across the room and I'm thinking in my head, don't eat that. Oh, you ate. Oh, gross. Oh, well.
You just let it happen.
Well, yeah.
Build up
I mean,
the immune
I got
system.
you this far, kid. Now it's your turn.
This far, a year.
You're almost 18 months.
done.
Go to college, whatever.
So who takes the kid after the first year? Like, what? Whose job is it then?
I'm assuming grandparents.
Is
I
it
don't know.
become a ward of the state?
Yeah.
So you love your baby, right?
I
Let's just
really-
establish this. You
I
love
do.
your baby.
No, I do. And I don't really let her eat floor food a lot of times. I mean, sometimes I do, but only if I can't stop it from happening.
What have been some amazing, awesome things that you've had to miss out on because you've got a baby?
So, first one, cousin's wedding was in San Diego. It was on San Diego on the beach. And there was like a lobster, shrimp, fresh seafood dinner.
Oh.
And being a Midwestern living near no coasts, that's like, you're missing a fresh seafood dinner. What? Like, heartbreak, instant heartbreak. And so that was the first awesome thing I missed out on. And then of course I like to go to the and I can't even think his mom brain. So that's the nice thing about mom brain is that your head is so fuzzed out you can't remember what you're missing, and it's just fine.
I have
It's
a
all
friend
good.
who said I accidentally fed my kid 4 times yesterday. Like I gave him breakfast and then I gave him lunch and I couldn't remember if I gave him lunch. So I gave him lunch again and I gave him dinner, and he told his dad that like I ate 5 sandwiches today. So, I mean, that happens.
that's
But,
real.
you err on the side of I'd rather feed you too much than have you go.
I had
and
someone
tell
whose husband forgot to feed their kid, and the kid was crabby, and he's like, I don't know why this kid's so crabby. And she's like, well, what'd you have for lunch? And he's like, ... And then she's like, yeah, you cut off dad for like a week, because you're a parent.
Who's your favorite band of all time?
Oh, well,
Like, what's something you love to listen to?
Really?
Like it's nostalgic, it's fun.
Oh, yes, the Cardigans.
Okay. So the Cardigans
Yeah.
come to Blue Stem.
Oh, no, I'd
in
be there.
Fargo.
I would.
But your baby is sick.
Oh, God. Well, I'd not be there then. Oh.
Like it's
Hey,
it's like
oh my God.
it's like the croup. But you've also got like is that a thing that kids get still?
I'm sure at some point when we choose not to vaccinate our children against that, it'll come back.
Okay,
So
yeah,
if
'cause
it's
we
not
seem to be
already
doing
out there,
that.
it'll be
We're
back
like we're
real
just
soon.
trying all of these old timey diseases again.
Yeah, just I'm gonna start naming kids after those diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tetanus. What a cute name. Yeah.
This is
No? Okay, anyway,
this is my
so
daughter
the
Tetanus.
Cardigans.
So the Cardigans are coming, and you've purchased a new cardigan for
Oh,
the
geez.
Cardigans. You have second row
Can I
tickets.
have it
Not first row, second
emblazoned
row.
with Nina Pearson's face
Oh,
on the back?
without a
Okay.
doubt.
All right, like in like with the beads and like. Okay, all right,
And
good.
you have found out that you have won a Twitter contest to get like a meet and greet backstage.
Mm-hmm.
But your baby is sick.
Well, you just hang
Like
with your
lots of
baby.
runny noses and sneezing.
Okay, how sick?
and-
Does she have a fever?
She does have a fever, not a
Like,
huge fever.
What is
Like
the level of fever?
99.1.
Okay, no, that's not fever.
Okay, 99.6.
No, it's not. Okay, so
Okay.
100. So if you ever have to take
And
a
you're
kid to
on your
daycare,
way. You're
it's
on your way.
100.1.
And the
FYI.
babysitter calls,
So
and the
it's-
babysitter says she's asking for you by name. She started speaking, and she's saying,
Sarah Schaan,
She's like-
get over
like-
here.
she's like,
I've never spoke words before. but-
Sarah Isaac. Do you still go to the Cardigans concert?
No, you would go and hang with your kid. If you were my mother, you would still go to the event because she
Oh, yeah?
literally did that to me when I was a kid. But,
What?
yeah.
Well, doesn't that mean it's okay then?
No, it just means that.
Can't you have her take baby duty that day?
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I bet grandma would be like, I got this.
oh, absolutely. So, yeah, that, and I'm incredibly fortunate because both of her sets of grandparents live in town. So I'm sure that any capable relative in the area would probably be like, yes, I got this. And my awesome husband, who I do like now,
Oh, yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to not liking him on my wedding
He showed his
day.
worth.
Yes.
Did he like
No.
you on their
I'm
wedding
pretty
day?
sure he didn't, because I was not a pleasant person to be around. I don't know if anyone really liked me that day. I mean, I look good.
I don't remember either of you being unpleasant.
Oh, good.
So
Excellent.
we were not talking smack at our table for sure.
Well, there was like a situation at your table, if I do recall.
There was?
A breastfeeding situation that was distracting
Oh,
you.
that's right. No, it was just funny because it just happened like without warning.
Yes.
And it wasn't like I was necessarily like, who dares do that? But it
Who
was
dares
just like,
breastfeed?
boom, like I turned to your left and boom,
There was a boob
there's a boob right there.
and a kid.
Yeah.
I'm all about breastfeeding in public. I think it's
yeah.
fine. But I do also think that it's all right to say, like, hey, everyone, just so you know, I'm going to feed Tommy. I'm going to feed Nicholas. And just, like, give me a little bit of forewarning. For the same reason of, like, at no point am I ever going to just all of a sudden burp in your face without warning. I'm going to be like, guys, hold on. And
Are
then
you
turn and
equating,
burp.
JJ, are you equating breastfeeding to burping in people's faces?
I mean, it sounds like it, but
Yeah.
I remember
it's
what
more
it-
just like, it's like, let's all be on the same page here.
Okay.
I remember what happened now though. I had to think back, like, what was it that happened? And it wasn't that she was breastfeeding. It was that at one point, as I was just scanning the room, and right as I went past her son detached with a like a pop sound and looked at me, made eye contact, and went blah blah blah, and milk came pouring out of his mouth. That's what
And
happened.
it was during a speech.
It was during a
My
speech.
brother's speech.
It was during her brother's flippin' speech.
And nobody had any like microphones, so
Yeah.
she was trying to keep him quiet, like
Yeah.
so desperately
The
because
poorly run tech, very poorly run audio
Media
tech.
stage manager.
Yeah.
my poor freaking husband,
Yeah.
among 1,000 other tasks
Right.
that I piled on him that day,
Right.
was in charge of the tech.
Yeah. So it wasn't that she was breastfeeding. It was that speech got interrupted by her son going blah 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 and just like spitting up all this milk in the middle of her brother's
As
speech.
he was staring directly into your soul.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
I've
does
been
that.
tricked twice into consuming breast milk. Tricked, mind you. Twice in my life.
So it would be like a woman was like, here's some breast milk.
One was a man
No.
who got a hold of breast milk.
Good. Is it
Yeah.
kind of like burping in someone's face? Is that
It
a
is.
similar
Well,
scenario?
I also feel like it's probably illegal to,
give
you know,
someone
like
human what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, it's
human
unpasteurized.
fluids.
fluids, right? You know,
Fluids
like
from a human being.
What was
Making
what
you
was the
consume them.
reveal? Did they go, "Bah, that was breast milk," or after
No, I bet you
tasting
they
it,
pulled that little felt cover off of it, and it like had a boob on it.
or did
On
it,
the
did
side
it
of the
taste
bottle.
like so unlike cow's milk?
Oh, so it. The first time was during a discussion of where I said, "Listen, I think I could identify any type of milk." So, like, because we were talking
Like
about how
cat
there's
milk?
soy milk and almond milk and all of
not-
these things. So I said, I think I could tell the difference between whole milk, almond milk, and soy milk. And this was one of the milks that they had moved in with this whole thing. And it does not taste like cow's milk. It does not taste like almond milk, and it does not taste like soy milk. It tastes like gasoline is the closest thing I can attribute to. Like, it's like the smell of gasoline while drinking is what it tasted like. So maybe I got some bad
I'm
breast
pretty sure
milk.
you got some real bad breast
I
milk.
mean, like, I don't know who was pumping on that particular
I was gonna
occasion.
say,
Or
it was
you've just
fresh.
solved the energy crisis.
We're gonna run everything on breast
Also-
milk.
Also possible that you've just
You know what? It is. I mean, it's kind of a hot commodity.
The second time I was able to identify it, I knew that it was breast milk by the taste, but also like I sloshed around in a cup and I'm like, this is breast milk. And they're like, no, it's not. Don't worry. And I'm like, I can tell it's breast milk. Like, I can tell.
And they're like,
And they're like, no, it's not. It's not.
what's the indicator visually when you see it?
It just looks different.
like,
It's like separated, almost like a little like oil and water-ish, I guess.
Mhm.
It just looks different.
Huh. What would that be then? Would that just be
well,
fats or
So
something?
breast milk is really high. You know, it's high in fat and protein. I don't know if it's higher than any other milk, but I mean, it's non-homogenized, I
Right.
would imagine.
Right.
I don't know if they do a special process for milk, but I mean, yeah, so it's like all the fat is in there. So if you put it in the fridge, it does separate out. Like there's like a layer of like fat, and then there's more like of the actual liquid. E part. But if you leave whole milk out, it does that too, because now that I have a toddler, she likes to hide her milk cup in places, and then I find them, and they're completely separated, much like human breast milk.
Have you ever thought about like taking it and turning it into cheese or something?
Well, it kind of just does that all on its own.
On its own?
Yeah, curds and whey. You heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's real. Except for it's real gross.
Yeah.
So don't be tricked into that nursery rhyme crap.
I've actually been making our own cheese at home. And so like we made mozzarella and a couple burratas. And so like separating the curd from the whey and
Wow.
yeah, I've really been enjoying it.
Do you utilize cheesecloth?
We do actually.
Wow.
Is your mozz, is it like a low moisture mozz? Or is it a high moisture mozz?
It's high moisture because
It's hard to squeeze cheesecloth.
it is. And
a lot of work.
working with cheese is way more difficult than you would think. Like forming my first burrata, like it looked awful.
Well, I'm pretty sure all the low moisture mozzarellas too are made chemically. Like the low moisture-ness is a chemical process that they're going through.
Really?
Actually makes them taste...
I love that you guys know so much about cheese.
Well, I've been watching a lot of videos on making your own pizza on YouTube lately. And so there's a deep dive on mozzarella and what you need for
you
it.
You shouldn't chance.
Well, so like a New York style where the cheese is evenly distributed, that's using a low moisture mozzarella. But what is it, Neapolitan, or what's the version where...
Neapolitan is ice cream.
No, I know.
He's also been watching videos
It's
on.
where you just put like large gobs of...
Like the Mediterranean
that's
kind of style.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's more usually a more high moisture mozz, because if it's a high moisture, it's going to make the pizza soggier. So if you were to evenly coat it like a New York style, it would just make it too soggy. Wouldn't be good.
I watched a thing recently on a pizza where you make like you heat up the sauce and you heat up like kind of cheese in a cast iron pan, and then you like essentially fold it out on top of the pizza and then cook the crust a little bit so it retains this ultra crispiness to it. And I'm like, dang, that sounds good. But then I went and made a tombstone because that's all I had.
Well, you know what? At least you didn't go full on. Oh, what's that party pizza? Tortinos.
Totino's?
Yeah. See, you were like a step above.
Yeah.
So it could have been worse.
Yeah. It probably could have.
There's the Tortinos.
They're
Actually,
basically
I really
cracker pizzas.
Yeah.
That's basically what those are.
Yeah, which is just, I mean, really, it's a bastardization of lavash.
It's
when it
man,
boils
it's
down
3
to
in the morning. I'm really drunk right now, and all I got in the freezer are Totino's.
You know what I've never made, but I've always wanted to? On the back of the Triscuit box, they show like a little Triscuit pizza where it's a single piece of pepperoni and then just like a tiny little dollop of sauce, and then maybe 3 little strings of cheese.
I tried a similar
They're
thing
like,
last night.
try this brilliant idea of pizza making.
And I was like, so by the time I make an entire sheet, like baking sheet worth of these things and cook them, I could have just popped a frozen pizza in the oven and had the
You
same.
could have probably like homemade your own crust
Probably.
and full on made your own mozza cheese and mozzarella. I don't know. I'm not qualified to be on the radio show when you're talking about pizza.
Oh, you think
Why, 'cause
we
you don't
are?
like pizzas?
You think
no,
we
I
are?
just haven't watched enough pizza videos lately. I haven't done my research. Why didn't you tell me?
Why is there not a podcast called Pizza Corner?
I mean, there might be
Sponsored by
one.
Pizza Corner Pizza.
There might be one, but I mean, are they really what they used to be?
Yeah. Well, the podcast isn't as good because it moved to a new location. Even though it says it's the same host, it's the same equipment.
Didn't they change the recipe?
They did not. So
I remember you doing a big to-do
Seriously.
about that.
Why didn't we tell me about this pizza thing before
Yeah.
I came on the show?
I have inside information
Okay.
from the people who bought this who swear that nothing has changed with the creation of it. It's just a different place. Now, part of me wants to say, well, maybe maybe your conveyor belt doesn't have the same seasoning as the old place did. And
Well, now
maybe
that's a thing.
It is.
It's a thing.
It is.
Or it's the water.
That could be entirely
Because-
what it is.
My wonderful in-laws, I love them. They're wonderful. And there's like many of them because my husband's grandmother had 10 kids. And so they're very convinced that the special pickle recipe that their mom used to make was because of water, because no one can reproduce this pickle recipe. And they're all like lamenting the loss of these pickles because they moved and the water wasn't the same. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm pretty sure she's just keeping the recipe to herself. But okay, it's the water. No, it's water. So
but you know what, though? I mean,
it could be the water, though.
The kind of water that's available in Kentucky is massively important to their bourbon distillery
makes sense.
process, right?
Makes
because
sense.
it's all like limestone water. And so it tastes different. It's going to have a different iron content. It's going to have a different silt content.
Minerals.
Right.
And then different. You don't think they take the silt out before they make the bourbon?
Actually, I don't think they do. No. No, because it's not the water is not. It's more of like helping like cool processes and stuff like that, and it's in the liquid, but it goes through multiple things that get rid of impurities. So anything that's floating around inside there is going to get
silt.
Going to get burnt away.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
Good.
It's from the land, right? It's just like we take the water from the land and put it in our bourbon, but also, I mean, depending on whatever municipality you live in, however they treat the local water too is going to be different. There used to be, you could definitely taste a difference between Fargo and West Fargo and Moorhead water.
Moorhead was the best water, I've heard.
I like it.
And then I moved there and I
like them all.
was like, oh, it tastes the same.
I like them all.
Thanks for the setup. And
my
fail.
water tastes funky twice a year whenever it floods a little bit. And they're like, oh, it's because, the river goes beyond its banks and it pulls all of this stuff that normally isn't there, this other vegetation and things, into the water source. And so you're tasting all of these other elements that used to be there. And I was like, I think it tastes like shit. And I hate it.
And you're like, whatever it is, get it out.
Last year, I bought one of those big jugs of water for the first time ever because I said, I can't drink this water. And I feel like it makes me stink when I'm in the shower.
So do you shower? Would you took the jug and you poked a hole in it? And
I gave myself a sitz bath. I've done that. Like, I'm not above it because I don't want to feel like it's like when you leave like clothes in a.
As a nurse, I'm a little worried that you needed a sitz bath.
Really? Is that where you just sit and give yourself a bath? Isn't that what a sitz bath is? Oh, what's a sitz bath?
It's a butt bath.
A butt bath?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, like I have. Okay, so
I thought you sit and then you sit and give yourself like a washcloth bath. That's what I thought a sitz bath was. But it would make sense because why would you have the word like the S or the Z there?
Sarah has routinely bathed people in her work environment, though.
Historically, yes. Yep. Nope. Definitely gonna Google an image of a sitz bath for you.
For the butt?
Yeah. Mostly it's a sitz butt bath.
It's a sits a butt bath.
Yeah.
Is it who did the Italians create this? It's a sits a butt bath. We make the pizza with a high mozzarella moisture content, and then it gives us a sits a bath.
And then we need a sits a bath to take care of a butt. So yes, that's how it works. So no,
we just lost our entire Italian audience. Okay, I'm gonna look at this.
Here. Okay. So a sitz bath is a bath for your butt.
It looks like the thing I put when I'm washing dishes and I need to just clog my drain.
Yes, but it's larger because you don't have that small of a butt.
So,
and neither do I. To be fair,
it's like creating like a douche.
Sort of like a douche or a bidet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with bidet. Go back to the French.
Well, but aren't you going? Isn't this cleaning up into your butt though?
Well, I think you
bidet
literally
is all external, right?
Yeah, bidet is a sprayer,
right?
Like a
but
spritzer.
This looks like it's going.
If you aim
this
it right.
is going in.
You're like going in for the sits.
Now,
yeah, and you could put like Epsom salt in it. Speaking of having a kid,
this looks like you sit into the full-on toilet.
Yeah,
according to this image I found, this woman is sitting inside the toilet.
She's sitting.
So is that how the sits bath works?
I wonder how many people in life you told that you give yourself regular sits baths, and they just quietly were like, why is JJ offering up this information right now?
Okay, so this graphic I'm looking at, these are the product benefits. Easy to use, fits all standard commode.
Fits and sits.
Yeah, there you go. If it fits, it sits.
So
like
designed for comfortable anal sits bath. And then it says clutter-free, fits in a small space. This person is putting it in the top drawer right underneath their sink.
Oh.
That's where
convenient.
I put Q-tips.
How are they disinfecting it before it goes back in?
And the last one is disposable and hygienic. Next time I'm on a plane, I'm going to give myself a sits bath.
There you go. It's going to be so easy. I mean, you're only bathing one part of your body, so you may want to think about that one.
We've learned something important here that I have been going around for years telling people
Dude,
that
nurses
like
have some of the best knowledge. They'll drop it on you, man.
Yeah.
some of the best.
We really
They will. They've seen some stuff.
Do you do your scrubs have any like cute like ducks or anything on them or Marvel characters?
They're a ambiguous blue color of the healthcare place I work
What's
at.
ambiguous about the color
Because
blue?
all of the healthcare places here in town are blue.
Oh, so you're saying
I'm trying to keep my location of work.
got it. I thought you were saying like, oh, she's wearing blue scrubs, but they're a bit ambiguous.
For sure
They
they're
might be purplish
could be,
more.
Could be lake, could be charcoal. Could be,
She certainly is a nurse.
Cobalt.
We just don't know the exact location of her
Exactly,
nursing
yes.
that's taking place.
That's my radio persona is abstract blue nurse.
Have you ever had to run the Ask a Nurse toll-free call line?
No.
Because I've called it twice in my life, and they've said the same thing. Go hospital. Go
And
to
they-
hospital.
Did you
Go
ever
hospital. That's what they
Go
say.
hospital now. Now.
Go hospital.
Did you ever nurse your daughter in a nursery? Because then you would have been a nurse nursing in a nursery.
Yes. In fact, I still nurse her in a nursery.
There you go.
Yeah. That's
Just wanted to point
Now-
that out.
Oh,
That's
okay.
poetic.
It's like I found a pattern in the universe, like Isaac Newton discovering calculus.
yeah. Yeah.
like,
right.
please-
nursing a nurse.
Please describe this nursery.
The nursery? Well, it's her room. I don't know.
'Cause
I
I
call it the
mean-
nursery.
A nursery is also a reference to a place where you grow plants. So are you growing plants?
Oh, I don't, so here's the deal.
If you had a greenhouse, that could be a nursery.
You could. I would nurse her in a nursery. But I don't, well, let's see. Cheyenne
If you-
Gardens was my favorite nursery and they just
Oh.
closed.
Did they have they decided to permanently close the facility at Cheyenne Gardens?
Well,
do
I
you
know they were having a big sale. Like a big sell off all this stuff. So I don't know.
You know, he passed away last
he did.
year.
And he
there
was such a gem.
There was no idea of what they were going to do with it. And I think that his protege, the idea was that he would take it over, but he owned a massive amount of land
Yeah.
out there that would
He
have to
did.
go with it. It's too
Yeah.
bad. We bought like 4 trees from Cheyenne
Yes.
Gardens, and they
Yep.
were phenomenal. I loved them.
Yep. No, they're awesome.
Now, if Cheyenne Gardens had a daycare, she could be a nurse nursing in the nursery's nursery.
There you go.
Oh.
Nice.
That's excellent.
Nice.
Okay. I like that one even better. That's my favorite one.
Now, if we could work
Yeah.
with the word person there, it'd be even better because then you'd get like, you're looking for another nurse, but it's purse.
If Sarah had like let's just say a mild wound that needed to be attended to, there could be a nurse nursing the nurse while she nurses in the nursery's nursery.
Oh,
my God.
a mild wound.
Well, I don't want to be like for the scenario like Sarah needs to have harm come to her for the scenario to play out. So I want to mitigate as
Like
much.
maybe I scraped my shin.
Yeah, or you
as
hyperextended
I
an
was,
arm,
Yeah, hyperextended.
and so they're just like doing some like physical therapy
Arm
movements with you or something.
as I'm nursing.
As
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe that
I'm
other
pretty sure my
nurse
kid would be
is a
like,
little
"What the hell
terse.
is going?" The terse
terse
nurse.
The terse nurse
Was
nursed
nurse
the
the
nurse while
nurse.
she nursed in the nursery
This
adjacent
nursery.
to the purse.
I think within this we found the episode title somewhere.
It'd be the longest title we've ever
It's gonna
had.
be awesome.
Sarah, would you like to know something I like to tell people to Google and then they go, "Oh God,"
Yes,
that you would
please.
probably enjoy as a nurse?
Yes, that would
So
be lovely.
I always tell people like, "Oh, that person's like a walking carbuncle." Are you familiar with the carbuncle?
I'm very familiar with the carbuncle.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, carbuncles are awful.
So
They're
bad.
really gross. They're very smelly,
Mm-hmm.
and usually they tunnel, wound
They
tunneling.
tunnel?
Yeah.
What is a carbuncle? Don't show me.
No, that's
Just-
part of it.
So
you need to
a
Google what a carbuncle,
Carbuncle, isn't it similar to a boil?
is. Yeah.
Whoa!
But it's kind of like
Isn't it like
it's like
a
it's
lot
like
pussier?
it's almost like things on top of things.
Okay,
It is
yeah.
like it's like a
It's like a twice baked potato.
like a cauliflower. You know how like a head of cauliflower is all the cauliflowers? That's what the carbuncle
Sarah's
is.
typing things into her phone right now.
The thing about a carbuncle
Severe
is
abscess. Oh, multiple boil.
yeah,
Oh.
see, it's got a bunch.
So not just one boil. It's like 13 boils.
So I love to compare
Okay.
people to carbuncles, and
that's
then
fair.
they'll like go look it up later and be like, "I almost threw up in my meeting."
Mm-hmm.
because I had to Google carbuncle.
Ooh. So here's
So
like
you say to their face,
Yeah.
like, you're being a real carbuncle right
Yeah.
now.
And sometimes I'm like, you're being a real Artie Carbuncle right now. I'll be like, who's Artie Carbuncle?
Go Google it. Won't you go
Google it. Sarah, you at one point lived with Tucker
Yes.
in multiple dwellings.
Yes.
2?
We were married. No, I'm kidding. We were not married.
No, we were
that's not
virtually.
true.
Common law, no.
Common law.
No.
Almost.
So does
So
that
that
means
means
Brad,
that
your
would have
son?
been a poly
Brad would have been our
relationship.
child.
Yeah, oh, God. A
Tell me
problematic
what it was
child.
like
Poor
to live
child.
with Tucker on a day-to-day basis.
So Tucker's kind of like having a cat. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, he's like there and then he's gone and you don't know where he went, but you assume he's out like hunting things or, you know, like talking to people and hanging out or whatever. And then he comes home and you're like, where were you? And he's like, I don't know. And then he just goes up to his room and sleeps for 12 hours. It's really chill. It was very nice to live with Tucker.
Living with Sarah is awesome too, because it's like you have a live-in nurse. Like if you are injured, like Sarah, then she just takes care of it.
She just comes
She
in
really,
and
she
takes care
really
of it.
does.
Our child, Brad Delser, had donated plasma. And so he was unloading the dishwasher. And this was like right at the beginning of living with Brad and Tucker. And so,
So
this,
still in the apartment, not in the
yeah,
house.
still in the apartment
Okay.
with the turtles in the living room.
Yep.
Yeah, tortoises.
Yep.
And
turtles.
turtles.
Both
true,
were there.
I suppose. So he started just bleeding all over the clean dishes, all over the kitchen. And I was like
Like a gusher, like
seriously, like, yeah. And I was like, did they go ahead and use an artery when they were doing plasma? Because that's not good. And so what had happened is he had taken the band off of his arm too soon.
Oh, okay.
And they must have really, I don't know. So then as he was like unloading the dishes, which was probably heavy lifting at that time
Yeah.
for him, he started bleeding everywhere and it was horrible. And so the one convenient thing though was we didn't have to finish unloading the dishwasher.
Right.
So that's
because
the
you just
moral
had
to
to
the story.
rerun it.
Yeah, like
From
3
time
times.
to time, Brad would get mad at me for the amount of dirty dishes that were in the sink, and I go, Brad, I don't own or use dishes. I eat at McDonald's pretty much every day.
Just like a cat.
My dishes are pieces of paper that get thrown into the garbage. That's all yours, right? All of this here, yes, I'm messy, but my messy is up there and downstairs in the basement. All of this is yours
In the living room.
and the living room. Well, actually, that was Brad's. Brad's was living room.
Oh, the tortoises were Brad's.
Oh, we're talking the apartment now. I'm talking the house.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
the house.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
the apartment was a mess, but the basement was my mess in the house,
Mm-hmm.
and then my room was my mess in the house, and then the one shared bathroom was all of our mess.
Yes, that was
That was
all
a
of our
fun
mess.
party house, though.
It was a great house.
Some of the best parties we ever threw were there.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It was excellent.
When I was helping Tucker
Formative
move out
house.
of the apartment into the house, which is,
You were
just,
also helping Sarah.
yeah,
Where?
several blocks away. So it was a pretty easy move. And it was, I
Not bad.
believe, a summertime or fall
And we were really
move.
Yeah.
poor, so no one had a lot of stuff.
Right.
Which is a convenience of being
We
poor.
pretty much had no furniture.
Yeah.
that point.
At that point, we had a bed frame full of sand and tortoises in the living room. That was our furniture
Pretty much.
that no one should sit on because
Yeah.
So
they might get humped by a turtle.
Yeah.
I'm asking Tucker if he's going to miss the apartment. He goes, I'm really going to miss living next to Island Park because Island Park is, great place to go walk. And we look out there and there's a woman sunbathing. He goes, yep, I'm really going to miss it out here. And then we take like maybe 5 more steps and it's clear that now it's a man has leaned up. And I remember it was one of those great moments like in our friendship where we experienced something together at the exact same moment that will forever be memorable.
Yeah.
With it.
To be fair, pretty hot guy, though. At a distance, pretty hot guy.
I'm so jelly of that body of his. Oh my God. And I think he must be a swimmer because like I took a closer look when we drove by and like no hair on the legs.
One of my life goals is to feel confident enough to do that
Yeah.
at a park.
To shave your body?
No, to like sunbathe in a public place. But I'd have to feel like, yes, I'm confident in this moment happening. It's a life goal.
When I
I've
turned
got ways to go.
We need to work on your body positive image, Tucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, not like work out on it, just like work on embracing yourself as you are today.
that's an easy thing to say, but it's so much harder to actually do.
Well, I know. That's why it's called work. I didn't say,
Ugh.
let's just do it right now. I said we got to work on it.
Right.
It's
when
a
I was
process.
27, I
Yes.
went to Detroit Lakes for the 4th of July.
Mhm.
And up until that time, my regular go-to for swimming was to wear a t-shirt and my swim shorts because I didn't want anyone to see my upper torso, specifically my man boobs,
Okay.
which
All right.
run in my family. My grandpa, great set of man boobs.
Real
So-
double D's.
Previous guest and podcast sponsor Natalie Deutsch told me, she's like, you don't need to wear a shirt. Who you need to impress? You've been dating Jill now for like 2 years. You don't need to impress anybody. And I was like, okay. So I took the shirt off. It was like I was being liberated. It's like I
Oh,
was
yeah.
all of a sudden like being allowed to be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like, I swear to God, like that night I had a dream where my stomach was like, hey man, thanks for the sun. And it felt great. It felt so good. And so since then I've really leaned into being like telling people the same thing. Like, hey, listen, you wear whatever you want. You do whatever you think. I don't have a cigarette in my hand. I've been ripping apart this.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah's really been eyeing me up. I have a problem like with just not like doing anything. So I've been ripping apart a Kleenex box.
Okay, and then twirling it into a cigarette form and holding it between two fingers.
Right.
Good,
Well, I'm
good.
just kind of like
That's kind of why I
folding
was.
So
like,
Right.
yeah, you know, like
So-
it looks like a little shitty, like self-rolled cigarette.
So I have the same autoimmune disease that Carrie the English has, where you get the eczema or the plaque all over the
Psoriasis.
psoriasis all over your skin, and I have to take a shot for it, medicated shot, and you can't afford the shot if you don't have insurance.
Oh,
so for
Yeah,
years,
absolutely.
I just couldn't afford it, and so I was covered in this stuff, and so I would silent bob it. I would make sure that I was completely covered to my wrists, and then I had just enough topical medication that I could afford that I'd treat like my hands and my face with it, but everything else I had to constantly keep covered. And only recently has it mostly cleared up. So now after like 6 years of feeling like I have the plague, right? Like now it's like, okay, so now maybe I can start like, you know, being okay with going swimming this summer, maybe at some point, but we'll see. And the funny thing is that while it wouldn't cure it, having more access to sunlight would be beneficial to my skin and dealing with that. It wouldn't cure it, but it would definitely help.
We reduce
And
it.
It would reduce it a lot. But when you have it and it's just all over you, you don't want to bury your skin.
It's a real catch-22.
Well, so
Yeah.
here's my weird knowledge base of nursing. I actually worked in a derm department for a little while, and we had patients come in with psoriasis like that, and we would have them go in our it's called photo.
Yep. I used to do that.
Oh,
I did that before I got
okay.
on Humira, and that actually worked really great.
Yeah.
However, you have to go in for like half an hour once a week, and it kind of just becomes a thing. And people
Or some people go in for like 5 minutes every couple times a week.
Right.
So it is a time intensive
Right.
process.
It's basically a tanning booth.
It's
It's essentially what it is. It's at a different, I don't know.
a UVB.
It's a UVB, yeah.
Yep.
So it's slightly different. But it was actually great. I actually loved doing it. It felt great. And then I had not only fairly clear skin, but kind of a nice tan going too, which was pretty sweet. And a lot of people who have the resources just have one in their home. It's a standing one. But, you know, obviously I don't have the resources
lot of
for
resources.
that. A lot of resources to be able to do
It's a
that.
fairly resource intensive
Right.
situation.
And so now I take I don't know if Carrie D is still the spokesperson for it, but
I believe she is. I believe she just
Humira.
keeps seeing her in a commercial for it.
Okay, so I take Humira, which works great. You give yourself a subcutaneous shot every 2 weeks, but because it's an autoimmune disease, there's still so many weird. No, I shouldn't say weird. There's all sorts of ideas of what causes it and what could treat it.
And if you're a liberal, it's all food based.
Right.
And if you're a conservative, it's because of the government.
right.
And so
Right.
it's usually politically based.
Right. So I mean, there's anecdotal correlating evidence where people with different types of autoimmune disorders, right, then adopt a different diet and then it goes away. I'm not a scientist. I can't say whether or not, but like just changing my diet in general would be really good versus like doing it for autoimmune. So I don't really worry about that too much. But the Humira works as long as you can take it consistently. And it's taken about 4 months of me taking it to get to about 90% clear.
I love to diagnose one skin disease and be right. And it's happened probably half a dozen times in my life.
Okay.
Someone has described what they have, and I'm like, sounds like you suffer from pityriasis rosea. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yep, you should go talk to your doctor about it. And then they'll come back. Pityriasis rosea. And they go and they talk to their doctor about it. And they're like, yep, it's I have a lack of vitamin D going in. And so they have to go get a tanning thing. And I only know it because I had a close family member who had it when they were young. And they had to get a doctor's note to go to a tanning salon because they were under the age, to correctly be doing that. And so I like throwing that one out there. I always feel like and that and pleurisy. Like when people tell me like they have trouble breathing and I'm like, oh, you probably have some scar tissue around your lungs. Sounds like you got some pleurisy going on.
Damn, I am impressed because I have never heard of pityriasis rosea. That's
And you found it though. You Googled it.
Totally. Yeah, it's right there.
It happens. It's more common than you would think. It's like
apparently
it presents itself kind of like as a rash or irritated skin.
Mm-hmm.
It must be what they originally thought I had because I got misdiagnosed like twice at the start.
Probably.
Yeah.
Pityriasis. Well, that is a thing I just learned.
There you go. Right. And
Good job. Nursing the nurse. Schooling the nurse.
I've been right half a dozen times. I've been wrong probably about 40.
Okay.
If I'm going to be honest about this, like they come back and they're like,
yep, it looks like lupus. Yep.
It's Lyme's disease. Like, sorry, JJ, you're way off on that one. Be like, well, I took a stab at it. I'm no doctor.
That's true. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about not having any healthcare experience whatsoever is you're like, I tried.
Yeah.
Yep.
JJ thought it was psoriasis, but really I'd been shot in the stomach.
I did my best. What do you want from me?
Bleeding from the stomach. It's probably pityriasis.
Whereas a nurse, of course, people always ask you questions as if you were a doctor. So you're like, I mean, is it this? And then they come back. They're like, it was this. You're a horrible healthcare person. And I'm like, I'm a flipping LPN. Like, give me a break. But then, that's the nice thing is when you finally learn that you have limitations, you're like, I'm sorry. What you're asking me is out of my scope of practice. And that is something that's very nice to have the ability to say.
Be like, nope, it's not me. Sorry.
Out of my scope.
I also think, too, that we expect every answer we get from a healthcare professional to be 100% correct. And that's just not the way it is. Have you ever heard that analogy of like, it's not like, don't assume it's a zebra? Where like when someone has something that's difficult to diagnose, to not say, if I describe to you, it has a head, and like if I drew a picture for you to be like, that's a zebra. Well, no, say it's a horse first. It's more common for a horse and then work your way up. So
Gotcha.
If someone comes in and you think that they might have lupus,
Probably
as you said,
tuberculosis.
is that going around?
Well, I don't know. You just
brought it up.
Don't assume it's a zebra.
You brought it up so casually like
don't
that.
Don't assume it's a zebra.
Probably tuberculosis.
Well, at least they didn't go the coronavirus route.
Right.
That's like the popular thing now.
What do they name it now? Like COVID-19?
COVID-19. Well, no. So, okay. The coronavirus is the virus that you get that causes COVID-19, which is a lethal
right. But
disease.
There's multiple coronaviruses. Like it's like saying the flu versus like saying the specific strain name.
A flu. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
I get so afraid of things like this. Like I honestly am one of those guys. I'm not a hypochondriac, but I really lean into when they're like, yep, it's a really bad flu season. And I start going like, oh my gosh, I gotta remember to pump in and pump out every time I go into like a room. And I start carrying around a little thing of like hand sanitizer, and I won't even get near a kid. Because I'm like, yeah, I know you're a germ carrier. You're a noted germ carrier.
You're a known germ carrier.
You've
been stomping on food and then eating it.
Yes, they totally do that.
I keep a database, a running list of the kids who I shouldn't be talking to.
Tucker is a guy who doesn't cover his mouth when he sneezes. He just sneezes right into the
he's
air.
A cat.
Because he's a cat.
That's not even
so I'm
close
pretty
to being
sure,
true.
like
you sneeze right into the air. Like you
sneeze
don't
away from people.
Tucker, I have sat in a sunny living room with you before.
You don't cover your mouth.
Watch the spray cascade across the room, like kind of beautifully. Actually, I mean, it was very poetic. How like the golden globules of spit just.
You really see it because it's unencumbered.
Yes.
by anything.
It is.
is
It's
exaggerated.
unencumbered.
I've been on road trips with Tucker where he's
this is
sneezed, and
exaggerated.
I swear to God, we had to wipe the inside windshield. I'm like, it's just covered, and that's fine. At one point, like,
This is
obviously your
exaggerated.
parents
And he does
didn't
make the
bother.
cute little noise that the cats make. It's very adorable. Yeah, it's cute. Can you hear that on the radio?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't have to keep doing
I'll
it.
videotape it sometime, and I'll show people. I'll get in a very dusty,
Next time I
peppery
sneeze,
environment.
I'm doing it directly at you.
Well, it's big. I
Golden
mean,
globule,
even
this
if you say like, "Oh,
bitch."
I turned my head," so it's still getting into the air supply around me, and like I know I'm like, all right, I'm
And then
gonna be
you're
sick
all
in 2
like-
days.
What is that movie with Dustin Hoffman? Okay, help me out, movie buffs.
Meet the Fockers.
Well, so he was also in a movie about viruses getting everywhere. Outbreak.
Outbreak. Good job.
Yep. I just
Look,
remember that.
and Meet the Fockers. We couldn't have been more wrong.
We're talking about illnesses, for God's sake.
Kramer versus
Come
Kramer.
on, Dustin. I hate you too, you little.
Yeah, but wasn't that a monkey though? It's not a
It
monkey
was
that
a monkey,
sneezed.
but
Yeah.
don't you remember the part of the movie where if somebody sneezes on an airplane and then like you have the pan of like going into the vent and then
Yeah.
coming out
Oh,
somewhere
yeah,
else,
yeah.
and
You
then
know,
it's like
JJ?
it's in the air.
You know what's something I've never done is sit on your face and fart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you're really going to complain about me sneezing in a room somewhere.
I don't believe I'm complaining. I'm just stating a fact. And
Tucker,
like
I've
and
literally-
JJ, have you
I've
done that to Tucker
literally
before?
Have I
eaten
what?
your
Have you
farts
sat?
before. Yes.
Oh yeah, many
Couple times.
many times,
Couple times.
a couple. No, more
JJ,
than a
you're
handful.
A bully.
Like a bully because I
Like
sat
a
in front.
bully.
I'm evening. He sneezes in my face, so I'm evening it out.
I don't sneeze in
it's
your
a
face.
different blowhole.
Sounds like I sneeze near you. And
Yeah.
One nice thing
And it's
about that
really
is
offensive.
that you can't really contract viruses yet from farting in people's faces. So
Yeah, there's at
We don't
least
know
2
that.
layers of
We don't know
cloth.
like
coronavirus, maybe that's how it's spread.
cholera.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I
You
don't.
think
I
that
don't
on the
even
Oregon
know.
Trail, people were farting on each other's faces, and that's why we got it?
Yes.
We lost Betty Sue because of we were having a rip roaring farting on a face fet last night.
bet.
It just didn't happen.
I would. You know, I think it could happen.
Yeah.
If it were an unfiltered fart, it could totally happen.
Yeah.
See, it's never been unfiltered.
Well, there's that.
There's always been some kind of a filter, like a
Filtration
mask someone
part.
would wear if
Okay,
they're
yes.
coughing in the
Yep.
hospital.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Basically, you had 2 dental dams always in the way. Pretty much. Were you raw dogging it in one?
No,
like without underwear?
No, but I don't think. Are you familiar with the product, the dental dam?
Yeah, that's why I'm using it as a
Right.
reference.
It is nowhere near
I'm
what
pretty
it's
sure the
like
dental dam is supposed to be
underpants.
non-porous.
I'm just
right.
I'm
right.
just
Okay,
That's what
thank you.
I'm getting at.
I'm merely
Okay,
making a reference to there being 2 like barriers before getting to me, right?
But you
That are
like
like thin membranes. I understand
Yep.
it's not the exact same thing, guys.
God, Tucker.
Yeah, it's called a euphemism. Let's not go down too far into the logic like realistic train here.
I didn't know
Well,
that.
they're
think my
health
pants and underwear qualify as a dental dam, Tucker. I don't know if you've ever seen one before. Yes, I understand.
They don't because then if I
Correct,
poop
I
my
understand.
pants, no one would know.
Yeah.
It would save it in there. It'd be like wearing a Ziploc bag.
Would it just be a balloon that would keep getting larger
All
and
right.
larger?
Yeah.
There we're going here.
There we
yeah,
go.
That's
There you
good. That's good. We're
Sarah,
wearing
thank you.
balloons on our.
It's so
butts.
great to have someone on the show who just lets us go wherever we want. I'm gonna get so many comments about this episode. It's gonna be insane.
If you don't, if
Well, this is why
it's
I invite healthcare staff on your. on
if
your
it's not
show.
obvious,
'Cause-
we've known Sarah since high school.
yeah.
you have
Have you not known Sarah since high school? When did you meet Sarah?
Wait.
when she lived with you.
Really? That was huh?
Well, that was not too far after high school.
Really,
I mean, it was
2005?
yeah, somewhere in there.
2006?
2005.
5, I think is the right. Yeah.
We graduated in 03. So
I graduated in 02.
God, you're old.
I know from a different high school as well.
But you look so young.
Thank you so much.
You're like an young old
Like
person.
a young old person, like a young old Spider-Man. That's who I am. I think what's interesting to me is if you knew someone in high school,
Mhm.
it's different than. Were you gonna sneeze there?
No,
Sounded
I
like you
was.
were gonna sneeze.
That was a burp.
Do you suck it back in?
I did.
Inverted burp.
My GERD.
I hear all these stories about all the high school escapades that took place at North High and all the teachers that you guys, liked and disliked and everything like that. And I've never, I've always been on the sidelines. I'm always the kid reading Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I've never been Huckleberry.
Yeah, that doesn't map onto my experience with you and all the South kids at all, does
No,
it, JJ?
no. And there's a select group of people who had both the North High and South High friends. Because even like Tucker, you and I, we didn't really become friends until
the first. What year did Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within come out? Because that would have been the first time we hung out.
the summer of 2002, summer of 2001 at the very
I think it's
earliest.
2001. So we knew each other and we're like acquaintance friends. But yeah, we didn't start regularly hanging out on a regular basis until after I graduated,
Yeah.
I think. Because that summer after graduation was Rutland. And that whole scenario happened. Yeah, so all that was going on. So that was kind of when we started getting tighter, I think, was around that time. Maybe.
Did you say summer 2001?
And now they're making out on the
It's
couch just in
2002,
case
summer
everybody wants to
2002.
know
Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
No, with the Rutland.
what they're actually doing.
'Cause it was the year I graduated from high school.
You had already done it once, but then I
so
came.
2003.
Yeah, 2003.
Sarah, you're the guest today. So
Am
back
I,
to
though?
you.
Because I'm
Back
pretty
to you.
sure I just watched you guys verbally make out on the couch. It's very sweet, though.
Basically, how we make out is our version of making out is trying to recall a date
Calendar
in the past.
dates, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Nothing
And
sexier
that's
than an old
fine.
calendar.
I mean, I will not judge you on your sexuality.
I met Sarah sophomore year of high school because she had just moved from Rugby, North
Rugby,
Dakota.
North Dakota.
to
You lived
Fargo.
in the geographical center of North America?
Yes. Well,
I mean, it's technically...
it depends on who purchased the rights
Right.
of the geographical center of North America. But technically, yes, I did live near the geographical center of North America.
Well, how was growing up in rugby? Did anyone play rugby?
No. You know, and it's funny because someone would ask me if I played it, and I had no idea what rugby, the sport was, and I didn't even know it was a sport. So I was like, well, I play for rugby, so I don't know. And then I would walk away and never know that I was an ignorant person.
What did you play?
Yes. Volleyball and basketball and track. I mean, you when you're a kid from a small town, you play everything because you need everyone. Or else you
Sure.
don't have a team for anything. So you just have a lot of kids who are really bad at whatever sport it is that you're trying to put them in. And then there's like one really good kid. And you're just like, and that was Jill Murtaugh.
Jill Murtaugh?
She was like the kid who was good at all the sports. And as I was growing up, and I was just like, I don't even know. Jill Murtaugh. And I'm pretty sure like if I were her, I would never have changed my name if I got married because I feel like I'd be like an athlete, like a famous person where you wouldn't want to not know who Jill Murtaugh was anymore. That's how good she was in my opinion.
So here's an interesting question. So you didn't change your last name?
Well, it's because I was really, well, that's because I like my last name.
Sure. Hey, I'm curious because my wife chose to change her last name. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but my sister was like, "Nope, I'm going to keep mine."
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing to not do or do. I don't know.
Was there a discussion about it?
Oh, so it was really funny because my husband, I'm like a self-proclaimed feminist. Or
no one else can do it.
Self-embraced feminist. I don't know,
okay.
whatever. So, he's very respectful and terrified of that.
Sure.
Good job.
He's like, I don't know what is going to push you over the edge.
Oh.
So anytime I would ever even broach the topic, he just puts his hands in the air and he's like, do what you do. Just do what you do. Whatever. I'll marry you no matter what. So, and so, yeah, we've to this day, like I mean, I was intending on maybe hyphenating my name, but I never was going to change my last name. So, I haven't ever gotten around to hyphenating my name. So, and then it's
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to change your name. Yeah.
And there's services now that can do it for you, but it's like $800.
Yeah. It's not cheap.
And so I think when I asked my sister, I was like, okay, so you're not going to change your name to your husband's. And she's like, nope. She's like, I like my last name. And she said, I've spent all of this time,
right,
branding myself, like all of a sudden changing it. I've got to start all over again. I'm like, that makes total and complete sense to me. You be the person that you want to be. And I think
although Brady does have a cool last name.
Archer, it's a great last name, right? It means to arch.
Yeah.
this is true. Did she marry a Brady?
She did. Yeah.
I'll be damned.
Chrissy and Brady started dating when Chrissy was a sophomore in high school. So almost.
I don't know why that was a surprising thing to me.
It'll be 19 years in March. They got married this last December, so they'd been dating for more than 18 years.
Interesting. Like, so with changing your last name, it's kind of like saying peace out to the identity that you had before you got married to a person, like your new person. And I didn't like that idea. I was like, I just want to be who I am and stick with it because I like my last name and I like who this person I've created. So
it also, by the way, is a baller last name.
Schaan?
Like the spelling of it, like the whole thing. Schaan.
Oh, thank you.
Like it's a great last name.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you very much. I agree.
When I finally get married, I expect my wife to take both my last name and my first name.
And your middle name?
No, just my first and last name.
Mrs. Tucker Lucas.
No, I don't actually believe that.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
Just the last name,
I don't know
not
if we
the
could be
first name.
friends anymore.
I could care less. Like, we're like, yeah, we can,
Take a new last name.
if you want
Just
to
make
call yourself Bobo, that's fine.
So
Call it the Incredible Hulk.
yeah. Now here's
Rename
one
yourself.
thing. So when Jill asked me, she's like, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, "If I think it'd be great if you took my last name because it's going to solve an issue later on, which is I would like my kids to have the last name Gordon."
I gotta go in 5 minutes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. I said I would like my kids to have the last name Gordon because
Are you gonna have kids?
I don't have any kids yet.
Are you gonna?
Yeah, that's on the
Really?
game list. Yeah, but we went to this
I didn't
wedding.
know that.
Yeah.
Sounds like she had assumed that Jada's never having
He's
kids.
never gonna have kids.
He's
didn't.
blew
I
her
can't
mind.
wait to have kids. But we went to Jamaica
You're so
in
young,
December.
JJ.
They'll look just like me. They're also going to be blonde. That is the dominant gene. Like Jill has very dark features, but I'm like, listen, my cousin Heather married a guy from, I think he's from Uruguay, and he's got extremely dark features. And that baby was born with like dark brown hair, brown eyebrows, but within 2 months became as blonde as you can imagine.
Nice.
So it's the dominant gene. Anyway,
Just put them out in the sun a lot.
right.
They'll just blonde right
Makes
up.
sense.
Yeah.
I am the last Gordon on the state side of our family tree. So I would like to continue that family name. Otherwise, it just ends with me. So if Jill had chosen to stay Anderson, which I would have been totally cool with, I would have really liked for our kids to have been last named Gordon, though.
See, yeah, that's like my daughter has her father's last name, and the name thing, you know, and I feel like it kind of got lost. But the reason I didn't change my name, the whole reason I didn't change my name is because that's who I am, and I identify with that name. And of course, you know, ego, blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, it's just me. Like, and I'm very proud of who I am, and that's part of my identity. So I'm gonna stick with it. And it's a struggle though, because it's like, do I want to have the same last name as my kid? Because that wasn't an issue. I didn't really mind because I know she'll grow up being who she is, and you know, Resky will be her last name, and that will be wonderful because I married into a great family. So, but it's interesting because there's a lot of like travel issues and going to the doctor, and then like, so I'll bring her to the doctor, and they'll ask me the kid's last name, and then they'll see my ID or whatever, and they'll be like, huh, and they give me a funny look. So it's interesting it's nice that you guys all have the same last name, but yeah, it's a conundrum right there.
It's also because Chrissy didn't change her last name. It's caused issues, and it's been issues since we were kids where people think we are a couple together, and then it's this like, no. Like we vacationed together. Like we went to my cousin's wedding in Las Vegas, and we shared the same hotel room. And so we checked in there. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Gordon, your room will be on the 15th floor. And it's just this like,
And you're like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Be like, 15th floor, did you say? And so now we are full-grown adults, and we get separate rooms.
Ooh.
Yeah, which is really, really nice.
That's nice.
Because we're adults.
So they're like, are you guys separating?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for your loss.
Last time they were here, they were in the same room. Now
No.
they're,
I mean, at
Trouble
least
in
they're traveling
Paradise.
together still.
yeah.
My
They have
room.
Can you
timeshare.
imagine? God, it must be so awkward.
Could you imagine going on a vacation where all of your exes come. It's like
Oh
an
my
all-inclusive
God.
resort, and then
No,
all of your
thank
ex's
you.
club come.
No, thank you.
God, that would be so awful.
If we could get that paid for on a JJ Meets World budget, I would love to have that experience.
Oh, that'd be horrible. Like with your exes?
Yeah.
Don't you have like 2?
No,
Oh,
there's a whole myriad
I always
of
thought
women.
you were such like a good person to be with that you just stuck with the people you were with.
Hey, you know what?
Oh,
Even
yeah.
good people have a pretty gnarly rogues gallery, okay?
Unlike Tucker, who's had many, many hostages.
I am a good
love.
person.
Yeah.
Hostages of love?
Well, I was talking about you being
Oh,
the
got
hostage
it, yeah.
of love.
I call them my rogues gallery.
Oh,
Because what
yes.
Batman
okay.
calls the supervillains,
Yes.
the rogues gallery.
Oh, Tucker, we need to work on your vision of who you need to date. Because if they're supervillains when you're done with them, like they probably weren't that great to begin with. So
I think Tucker doesn't need to date anyone. Tucker chooses to date, just like how Batman
Supervillains.
chooses to take out the Joker. He chooses
okay.
to fight
All right.
Brainiac.
it's fine. Good.
He could just let him do whatever they're going to do, poison the water supply, whatever they're going to
Yeah,
do.
I've made some poor choices.
And on that note, Sarah, thank you so much for being on JJ Meets World, and you have a super day.
I appreciate your time. And
Was this an interview?
I don't know. I've never been on the radio before. I'm doing my best.
A huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring this podcast. Folks, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, contact Natalie Deutsch today, because Natalie Deutsch is not only a previous podcast guest, she's somebody who's going to care enough to sell your property for top dollar. She's also going to find you the best price possible if you're purchasing a new home. Last year on average, Natalie earned her clients $4,000 over list price on their homes and sold them faster than the market average. On average, Natalie's selling a home every 3.74 days. That's 2 homes a week. Those numbers don't lie. Find out why Natalie is one of the top agents in this entire market. Get a hold of her today, Natalie at hatchrealtyfm.com. You can also call 701-388-9338 or go on to livefargomorehead.com. That's livefargomorehead.com. Read all of her amazing reviews, and then listen to her episode of JJ Meets World. Thanks again to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode of JJ Meets World and would like to help us continue to produce 2 new episodes every week, you can donate to our Patreon. Check out patreon.com/JJ Meets World and donate today. Even as little as $1 a month can go a long way. Visit our website at www.jjmeetsworld.com or hit up our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the sites the kids are using these days. If you'd like to stay up to date on new episodes of JJ Meets World, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you consume the podcast that you love. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by checking out www.moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, go to linebenders.com, and you can find direct contact info for JJ. I remember one of the first times I met Sarah, we had a lengthy discussion about Sarah with an H at the end or just an A, and she threw some major shade at the people who just ended on an A instead of following through with a final H. And apologies to Sarah Watson Curry and the other 50% of Sarahs who just end on the A.